All right, I think we can start. We are around 68 people. So we will start it now. So very good afternoon to all of you.
Good,
And let us,
afternoon, ma'am.
good
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
ma'am.
And good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we are going to do the next paper that we have in Dr. Faustus, the next paper of paper 101, which is Dr. Faustus. Just a minute. And this particular paper, this is in fact a drama which has been written by Christopher Marlowe. And as far as you all know, Christopher Marlowe is someone who is considered to be one of the, very prominent dramatists of the Elizabethan era. He is also someone who was considered one of the university wits. So as such, this person, this dramatist, was not only famous as a university wit, but he was also very famous for putting into for putting in various kinds of plays, especially because he almost defined the moment. He almost defined the characteristics of Elizabethan drama, so to speak. And there are many plays of Christopher Marlowe, of which four are very well known. One is Tamburlaine the Great, which was, and the other one is the Jew of Malta, all written in and around 1590s and 1585, 1590s. And so the Jew of Malta is another one. Edward II is another historical play that had been written by Christopher Marlowe. And as I told you, that was an era when there was a lot of free borrowing could take place. There was a lot of people could actually borrow from one another, and even at times it was not required that they would give so much of credit to the sources. So we do find a lot of overlapping between the kind of plays that came up during the Elizabethan period. One overlapping that we can point out at this very moment is how Christopher Marlowe created this character in the Jew of Malta, who was named Barabbas. And he was a Jew, and Barabbas was a Jew, and Barabbas's character was a character that inspired Shakespeare to to draw Shylock. If you remember, anyone of you have done Merchant of Venice earlier, like those of you who belong to ICSE schools, you might have done Shakespeare's dramas, either Julius Caesar or I think Othello or Merchant of Venice. We did Merchant of Venice when we were in classes 9 and 10, and Shylock was one very interesting character in the Merchant of Venice who had been inspired from Christopher Marlowe's Barabbas in the Jew of Malta. So therefore, these are certain aspects of Elizabethan drama that we need to take into consideration when we are discussing Elizabethan drama. And as I told you, in the previous classes, that this was also an era which was quite, it was not an era that had a very straightforward, a very linear kind of an understanding when it came to any aspect of human life. And the same thing can be, you can find the same echoes when you look into the way religion or religious aspects influenced the life of people. So religion was another very important and interesting aspect of into which people into which people took a lot of interest. And as such, many of the plays during this period could be seen to deal with morality issues, issues of good and bad, issues of right and wrong, sin. What is sin? What could be retribution? What is confession? All the Christian ideals of religion made a very important impact in the life of people. Now, because this was also an era of critical understanding, so naturally all of these aspects was not taken at face value. People pitted them against reason and also tried to question each and every aspect of religious life, to the extent that sometimes these questions became intensely complex. But whether they were able to keep up to that questioning, whether they were able to do justice to the kind of questioning that did take place during that time, is again a matter of critical evaluation left for the readers of that era, readers like us, um, who are now more aware of things happening around us, and we can actually sit and evaluate whether at all they were able to keep up to whatever was being talked about during that era. So why am I talking about this, the religious aspects? Because this particular drama that we have at the table today is considered to be a morality play. In fact, it is a morality play. And what is a morality play? Elizabethan drama began with these miracle and morality plays, where these were the two kinds of dramas which were used to forward the idea from which ultimately the idea of drama evolved. These miracle and morality plays were actually the miracle plays actually dealt with the life of Christ and the various stories from the Old and the New Testaments, whereas the morality plays morality plays presented a personification of various moral values. So personification, I think what is personification. Personification is giving a human attribute to abstract things, right? Therefore, or like becoming emblematic of the human. So personification of various attributes of life was something that was used in the morality plays. So the good, the bad, jealousy, greed, all of this, retribution, all of this came in the form of human characters in the morality plays. And these plays were circulated all over the towns and the urban centers in caravans. So they were basically, and they came in season. They were seasonal, a cycle of the seasonal cycles of the year. These plays were circulated in caravans. I think I'm not sure about the other cultures, but in Bengali you have a culture of jatra. Where jatra is a kind of play or a drama which is actually performed at certain places, especially in the rural areas, where people actually come in. Why is this person not getting admitted? Yeah, where these dramas are done seasonally, and people move around like these. We know how these jatra parties, they would actually be moving around from one place to another, almost like, not like vagabonds exactly, but they would be moving around from one place to another, and they would be performing in various places. So that is something that is something which is very prominently associated with Bengali theatre tradition, and I would really be interested to know if there is anything there in other cultures as well of this sort, where there is a kind of a moving, a moving sort of an group going around and performing plays for a very huge, a mass audience, so to speak. So these miracle and morality plays were also produced for a mass audience. But as the cultural scenario changed, cultural scenario became, it emerged, it advanced. What happened? People started becoming more and more conscious about various cultural and representations, so to speak. And then what happened is these plays were then started being was brought indoors. So all this while they were performed outdoors, maybe on shifting, makeshift stages. But then these plays were brought indoors. Theaters were built at the end of the cities, outside the city gates, because theater was also considered to be a place of corruption, right? So theater was placed outside the cities, and these theaters in fact had a lot of people, had a lot of patronage that was given to them. I mean, from basically from the royalty, and also from very influential aristocrats. So these theaters, when these theaters came up, naturally different kind of dramas, the tradition of drama as we have it today, that is what came up, right? And that also at the same time, imagine when it was the miracle and morality plays, it was for a mass audience. But when these dramas came up, it became for a constricted audience. So in this kind of a theater, you would always find tiers of people, like people sitting according to their according to their privilege. So of course you will have the aristocrats sitting in one place, then you have the next, maybe the business class sitting in another place, and the plebeians or the common man would be sitting right next to the stage. And that is how this stage was arranged. That is how this drama was created. As such, drama also became a very important vehicle for disseminating knowledge, all kinds of knowledge. So not only did this knowledge pertain to telling them about what is right and what is wrong, but also creating that complexity. So when you do Marlowe's plays, especially this particular play, you will find that complexity is very much there. The complexity through religious understandings, like what is sin, why is certain kind of knowledge forbidden, why would we constrict ourselves, the very fact that there is a huge amount of time and space difference, like we are what we consider to be natural, we are always said to not go against nature. So we are always said to not go, not go to the past, or not try to go to the past or the future, but stay in the present. But in this play, you will find that there is a constant, the moment Faustus gains that power, he conjures up the dead. So that is against nature. So therefore, these are certain things that go on in the play. But whether it is interesting to see if Marlowe has been able to do justice to these questions as a playwright. Of course, within the confines of the time in which he was writing, no doubt. Okay, so with this as an introduction, let me now present my screen. And let us begin. This particular, today's class will happen, the ones who have done the class earlier, they know how we did the class last time. And I feel it to be, I feel that was quite fine, because I guess, what I did in the last, what I'm going to do today is, first we will be talking about the play. While I talk about the play, I will be showing you clippings of um, like of the play from a drama that was staged by a certain school of drama in England, and I will definitely I will definitely keep on explaining things to you, which will be taken up in the next half when I will start. Okay, you can see everything, right? Fine. I'm taking this as an attendance. Just a minute. Right. So, and in the second half, I will be doing a. In the second half, I will be explaining that entire thing to you. Okay. So let us begin. So I'm sharing my screen now with you. Another important thing that we should remember while doing Elizabethan play is that, Elizabethan play, even the playwrights were not very conscious of keeping proper, of keeping proper versions of their, you know, their plays, which is why even just as in Shakespeare, we have different versions of his play, edited volumes of edited texts. Even in this particular text, also we have different versions of Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. One is the A text and the other one is the B text. The A text, I think, was published in around. Oh well, can you all see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's now get into this now. So therefore, as I said that since versions of the play could not be they were like two versions of the play. One was published in 1604, which is considered to be the earliest surviving copy of the play, and the A text. This play was further revised in 1609 and then 1611, and there was a huge a big edition was a longer edition was published in 1616, which is called the B text. So therefore, there are certain differences between the A text, not very major difference, but there is a certain difference between the A text and the B text in the way that the A text is shorter and the B text is longer. So my explanation today will be from the A text. So I have a shorter text of Dr. Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. I will be using this A text for explaining, the play to you. So therefore, this particular play, as we know, as I was telling you, was written in and around 1589 and 1592, and later on, they have different versions of the text came, right? And so there is a huge controversy regarding the authenticity of the text. This is almost like the first, this is the 1616 B text cover page of Dr. Marlowe. Why am I telling Dr. Marlowe? Dr. Faustus. So this is the cover page of the B text of Dr. Faustus, and here you can see Dr. Faustus. You can see, Dr. Faustus standing in within a ring of what is thought to be invocation signs. Okay, so he is conjuring the devil. He has a book, so his identity as a scholar is very well revealed here. He's conjuring the devil. So here we have the devil, which is he conjures Mephistopheles, and along with that we also have a window, and I'm very interested in this window because Dr. Faustus, windows normally stand as examples of looking forward, examples of dreaming, metaphors of dream, so to speak. So maybe his vision, in his dream, he would want himself to be, he would want to reach out to the world, right? So maybe this is that window that is there. Okay, moving on, we have the source of Marlowe's play. Now, this must be taken into account that Marlowe's, this particular play was also not, although it was one of Marlowe's crowning achievement and also a very well-known Elizabethan play outside the Shakespeare canon, we cannot say that this was a play that was completely, completely Marlowe's original story. In fact, this was a play uh, which in fact had, there was a 1587 story and a 1592 story of a life of Dr. John Faustus, which was published in Germany. And then again, soon after that, 1592, I will just see if someone is trying to join, okay? Yeah. So, as I was telling you, that in 1587, a story of Dr. John Faustus was published in Germany. And right after that, in 1592, another edition came up. Another edition came up, which is still considered to be the earliest one present, which was in an anonymous English translation. And in England, that particular story came out in the title, The History of the Damnable Life of Dr. John Faustus. And from all of this, it could be understood that Marlowe, in fact, was referring to this history of the damnable life of Dr. John Faustus for his play. Now, who was the real Faust or real Faustus? Was there any real Faustus at all? It is thought that there has been, a sufficient evidence to state that in the early 16th century, there was a real John Faust, who is Faustus. He's considered to be a skilled sorcerer and also a notorious fraud, right? So all the contemporary references to this reputed magician comes from this. Moreover, there is also a Protestant pastor named Jean Gast, who was the first known writer to credit Faust with the authentic skills of a sorcerer. So he declared that Faust was in league with the devil, and he was the one who ultimately stated that this kind of a man actually existed. So this is the myth of John Faustus, from where this is the myth of Faust, the Faust legend, so to speak, from where we are getting this character of Faustus, even our Dr. Faustus. Fine. Moving on, you will find a lot of illustrations of Dr. Faustus on the internet. This is also one illustration of Dr. Faustus that I found from the National Geographic, the BBC Britannica Encyclopedia, where you can see Faustus in his study. You can see him holding a book. So definitely this is the life of a scholar that we are about to unfold. So moving on, the first thing that comes into the fore is the presence of a chorus. Now, who is this chorus? If you have read Greek plays during your graduation days, you know about this chorus. You know that chorus was considered to be a group of people, group of characters who did not have anything much to do in the play except stand as a commentator. or as informants, or as someone who almost seem to have a direct connection with the audience. So uh, the Greek plays had this chorus as a sort of, as a way of trying to, as a, a group of people who would be connecting with the audience through, by informing the audience about the scenario, by commenting on the present, past, and future events. At times, they would also become the mouthpiece of the playwright. Not that this particular tradition has been employed by each and every Elizabethan writer, but we do find Marlowe using this tradition of the chorus in this particular play. Just as we might, if you read Henry V, you will also find Shakespeare using this, but Shakespeare does not use chorus in most of his plays. He uses chorus maybe in these two plays which are mentioned over here. But the part, what happens is we begin with a prologue. A prologue is that part of uh, that part of a text which is trying to give us a way forward or trying to inform us something about the text. So in this prologue, we find the chorus who is informing us about the main issue of the play, and at the same time the chorus is opening this play up for us and telling us that in this play we are going to, the audience is going to read about the life of someone called Faustus, and at the same time, they are appealing to the audience that the audience must applause. So, to patient judgments, we appeal your plaud, they say, which means they are pleading the audience to judge the play as it is presented to them, and also to applause whenever necessary. So this line is important because, as I told you, that the chorus was trying to create a connection with the audience from the stage. Now, what does the chorus do in this particular play? The chorus first talks about the past of Faustus. The chorus informs us that Faustus was of low birth, but then he went to Württemberg. Now, definitely, Marlowe has made a mistake over here in spelling, because instead of spelling it Wittenberg, which is the first university in Europe, and was also famous as the first university in Europe. And even now, whenever we discuss university, Wittenberg University definitely comes up, because it was in Wittenberg, through Wittenberg University, that this culture of university studies came up, like the culture of formal university studies came up, institutionalizing of it. So Wittenberg was the place where Faustus went to, and he was patronized by his rich relatives who were there in the city, and at the same time he excelled in study. And what did he study? He studied theology, that is the study of religion. So he studied divinity and theology, and he was very, very he excelled in it to the extent that he was conferred with the title of the doctor. Now, who is this doctor? A doctor is a person who excels in discussion and argumentation. So he is therefore the person we are going to find here. The character that we will encounter here in Dr. Faustus is not a character who is passive, not a character who just receives wisdom, but a character who is also very, very prone to arguments. So he will weigh and consider. If we can bring back Bacon from yesterday, he is going to weigh and consider things as they come up to him. But definitely, Faustus, that is not all. For there, what is there in Faustus is something which leads to his tragedy. We are going to come to that. This is what is the problem with Faustus, that despite the fact that he is a scholar of high, merit, he is a scholar who has been able to, acquire the degree of a doctor, he is self-conceited. He is swollen with cunning of self-conceit. What does that mean? It means that he is someone who starts thinking very high, starts thinking unduly highly about himself, so of his own worth, right? So here cunning refers to knowledge. Please remember that, because this word will come back. Yeah, cunning refers to knowledge. Cunning refers to learning, and this will be used throughout the place. So remember this word here, cunning. Normally we would call, interestingly, cunning also means craftiness, but here it also means knowledge. The question which evolves is, can knowledge therefore be crafty? Well, but what comes up here, that he is so swollen with cunning of a self-conceit, so he is full of arrogance of his knowledge, which ultimately turns out to be his create a downfall. So that is hubris. Hubris, as it comes from the Aristotelian idea of tragedy. Aristotelian idea of tragedy. Okay, so hubris is something which is which comes up as the Aristotelian idea of tragedy, and it is said that hubris is one of the major faults of the tragic hero, right? Do you know about Aristotle's understanding of the tragic hero? Have you read about Aristotle's tragic hero?
No, ma'am.
You haven't?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you
No,
haven't.
ma'am.
Fine. Aristotle writes about the tragic hero. Aristotle, as you know, is a classical Greek philosopher. And Aristotle writes about the tragic hero and tells us that tragic hero, who is a tragic hero? Tragic hero is a person who is considered to be someone who is like us, someone who is someone who is like us, someone who is a little different from common man because of his high stature, and also someone who is full of certain elements which lead to his downfall. Hubris or pride is one such element in the tragic hero. So a tragic hero at one point of time becomes full of pride. Okay, and it is in that pride that he ultimately falters. He commits a mistake. And when he does so, when he commits the mistake, what happens is that leads to his downfall. So hubris is one of the major elements of a tragic hero, which kind of creates a break in his fortune. Okay, so in this person, then in Dr. Faustus also, he had become very arrogant of his knowledge, right? And being arrogant, what had he done? What did he do? Being arrogant, he started flying so high that ultimately he fell. He fell with a huge blow. He fell down, and the moment he fell down, he smashed himself. In a way that there's a Christian, story, a Christian myth about Icarus. Right? Icarus is the son of Daedalus, who was an Athenian craftsman, and they were imprisoned by King Minos of Crete. Both the father and the son one day decided that they would escape from the prison, and in that regard, Daedalus, who was a very, very gifted craftsman, he built what did he do? He made wings with feathers made out of wax, candle wax. So both Icarus and his father put on those wings and they flew out of the prison, and thus they were liberated. But Icarus's father had told Icarus not to fly too high or too close to the sun, because if he flew too high, then the wind, he will not be able to control the wind. The wind is very strong when you are flying too high. At the same time, if he was going too close to the sun, then his wings, which were made of wax, they would melt, right? And if it melted, what would happen? This person would fall down. So, and of course, if a person falls down from such a great height, he will definitely die. But Icarus didn't listen to his father. And out of a lot of self-confidence, what did he do? He flew close to the sun. He went very high and very close to the sun. And as he went very close to the sun, his wings melted and he fell right down. So this imagery, or this, this myth is being brought up. This imagery is being brought up to talk about, to tell us about Dr. Faustus also, and tell us how he fell to a devilish exercise. Because what he did was he tried to learn necromancy, that is black magic, which is considered forbidden knowledge. He tried to learn the knowledge of raising the dead. Yes, and that is definitely forbidden knowledge. That is definitely a knowledge which, which is against nature, as I told you. It is a knowledge that is considered to be against nature. You cannot bring back the dead. Even today, despite so much of progress in science, I have not heard anyone being able to bring back the dead. So therefore, this is something which is, this is something which is irreversible. This is something which goes against the law of nature. But Dr. Faustus wanted to learn it. And because he, like a glutton, like someone who ate indiscriminately, he used this. He tried to learn it and also use it in daily life. What happened is he fell down, like he fell. He actually called for his own tragic end. And with this, they usher us into his study, and they say, and this the man that in his study sits. So this is the man who is sitting in his study. This particular, this is a National Gallery Scotland, painting done by Rembrandt, who is one of the very famous painters of the period, and it was done in 1652. Okay, and here you can see Faustus. You can see all of these books. You can see this window, right? That vision outside, and along with that, you can also see this. All of these signs which are used to conjure the dead. So all of this also indicates that the idea of black magic, the way it comes into the play, right? And in the open, so therefore, if you are asked, what is it that you see in the chorus, these are the things that you are supposed to point out. That what exactly what does a chorus do in the play? So these are certain things that you are supposed to point out. Fine. Moving on, what do you have in the opening scene? Now this also is a very probable, this also becomes a very probable question for from the examination point of view, where you are often asked to describe the opening scene. So in the opening scene, you will find that here you have a man who is in pursuit of knowledge, and he is sitting and he is weighing knowledge. He is weighing knowledge, and in a way that he's trying to find out what is the kind of knowledge which should fit Faustus's intelligence, Faustus's which should build up Faustus's intelligence, right? So he writes, so therefore he is sitting in his study and he is constantly, rejecting all forms of knowledge. He is unsatisfied with that entire list that he has, until and unless he comes up to this aspect, until and unless he, he seems to strike at this uh, idea, or strike at this notion that the reward of sin is death. That's hard, he says. So he is not ready to accept that the moment you sin, you should die. He says, oh, that's very hard. Therefore, he says that there must be a way by which people who have faced such death, which seems to be unjustified, could be brought back. And he realizes that the only study which is left for him to do, the only study that he can now indulge in, is necromancy. Because necromancy alone can take him to a world of profit and delight, can open up a world of power, honor, and omnipotence for him. It can also allow him to also promise him all that is, the studious artisan. So it can also promise him that artistry, which is here, this artistry refers to the artistry of the magician. So the magician, he considers the magician to be, very, very powerful. And he says that this art of magic will allow him to move things between the quiet poles and also bring everything under his command, so much so that he will become like a mighty god. So I think what is quite well noticeable over here is, a sort of a parallel that is being drawn between another biblical character. Okay, between another biblical character and Dr. Faustus. Can you tell me who is that biblical character? Oh. Anyone? Who is that biblical character who also wanted to be equal to God?
Satan.
Satan, yes. Right. Okay, just give me two. Yeah, sorry. So yes, it is Satan, right? Who is in fact a character who also wanted to be like God. So here you have a sound magician. Here you have this person, Faustus, who also wants to be like God, right? And what happens is, what he does, therefore, is he wants to gain this power of the deity, right? And in this way, he moves on. In this way, he tries to capture power. He tries to gain this power of a magician, and he also tries to, become this deity. So this is what Faustus is mostly trying to do in he therefore wants to become a sound magician, okay, and he considers the sound magician to have the qualities of God. And so he says that his brains, which he considers to be, full of, he considers to have a lot of power, so much so it can, so that it can actually acquire a lot of new ideas, that would actually become so powerful that it would become, he would actually gain the power of a deity. And with that, what happens is he asks his student to call in these people with whom he can to call in these people who can help him with gaining this power, who can help him with gaining uh, this knowledge of necromancy. So, but at the same time, since he is someone who is constantly fighting between these two aspects of the good and the bad, you will also find him you will also find these two characters coming into the fore. One is the good angel and the other one is the bad angel. The good angel stands for conscience and the bad angel stands for temptation. So the good angel and the bad angel are two very recurrent figures in the play. Although these two, they are definitely, as you can understand, they are personifications of the conscience and the temptation. One of the major elements of morality play, as I told you earlier, these two characters enter the play as soon as there is any kind of debate that takes place within Faustus's soul. So whenever Faustus is debating between the right and the wrong, you will find the good and the bad angel coming to the fore. You will find the good and the bad angel talking about whatever, trying to reason things out with Faustus. So while good angel tells him that he should not go into he should not be, he should not follow the path of evil, the bad angel definitely advocates the path of evil, and the bad angel tells him that he should go on. And in fact, Faustus's over ambition allows him to overcome everything else in the world, and he sides with the bad angel, right? He listens to the bad angel, he sides with the bad angel at this point of time. When we are opening the play, we can find Faustus siding with the bad angel at this point of time. Moreover, and then what happens is Faustus calls in these two characters, Valdez and Cornelius, who are necromancers and practitioners of black magic, so that he can create, he can learn the art of necromancy and he can delve into this art of necromancy. With this, we are ushered into the first, the Act 1, Scene 3. Act 1, Scene 3, according to the text that I am following. And in this Act 1, Scene 3, we will find Faustus speculating about a life of power. Right? Here, Faustus is speculating about a life of power. And in this, so let's just watch, this part. You should watch this part to just find out what is going on, what is happening. All right, I hope it works. Can you all see the YouTube presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Just see it. So this is considered to be, this is Act 1, Scene 3. This particular, we are not going to go through. All right. So in this scene, what is happening is Faustus has already learned necromancy from his friends, and Faustus wants to practice it. Faustus wants to practice this, and therefore he is trying to conjure the devil. And he is now entering a grove in which he is using all the different, incantation skills, and he is invoking the devil. So you can just see that here. And after he is invoking the devil, you will find that Faustus, Mephistopheles appears before him. He conjures Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles appears before him. But the first thing that Faustus tells Mephistopheles is that Mephistopheles should go and change his, his appearance. So, and Faustus asks Mephistopheles to change his appearance into that of a pope, because he tells that that is the most, that is what religion should be all about. The pope is the pope actually is equated with the devil, right? So this is also what had happened during Reformation, when the supremacy of the church was cancelled, and the pope was considered to be, the pope was no longer held in a position of supremacy. And so here also we find that same element coming into play, and Faustus asks Mephistopheles to change his attire into that of the pope. And I would want you to constantly notice the various exchanges that take place between Faustus and Mephistopheles. Please note the way Mephistopheles is acting, his expressions, how Mephistopheles at no point of time is trying to tell Faustus that hell is a place of bliss, right? Or of huge power. You will constantly see Mephistopheles regretting being in hell, right? So which is also very, very important, because in no way do we find Mephistopheles trying to influence Faustus to reach, to conjure hell, or trying to make Faustus believe that hell is a place of huge power. So please note those things. I'll get back to you. See, he is conjuring the devil here. I hope you already noticed how he put aside his cross, right? He put aside his cross. I think you noticed that as well. So he is already rejecting God. And if you have seen that, you know, his rejection, all of that came out from a huge amount of arrogance. Oh, he's so impatient. There's Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles normally comes in the shape of a bull. See? Did you hear that? You are so ugly to attend on me. That's a Renaissance man speaking. He does not want anything which is ugly. His sense of aesthetics does not allow him to look at anything which is ugly. So therefore, you know, it becomes very difficult to even think whether Faustus is completely prepared for hell. Does he have an illusion about hell? Maybe, because he still considers that hell could be a place of aesthetic beauty, which is why he says, you are so, you know, so ugly to attend on me. This is very ironical. He says, how pliant is this Mephistopheles? He is so, you know, he listens so well to people. But this is very ironical because now you will find Mephistopheles to be pliant, but then later on you will find Mephistopheles taking over. He is the one who will be, you know, he is the one who will actually be commanding Faustus around instead of Faustus commanding him around. So this idea of subservience, this idea of who is the master and who is the slave, is also kind of toppled in the play, at least in the early parts of the play. Such is the force of matter. He says, I'm a servant of great Lucifer. So that's how Satan is brought in. Now, Faustus thought that, okay, you know, you will find that Mephistopheles does not at any point of time leave Lucifer aside, you know, just as people leave, just as Faustus has left the way of God, Mephistopheles does not leave Lucifer aside. And Mephistopheles tells Faustus that he is the servant of Lucifer. So if Faustus has to gain anything from Mephistopheles, he has to, you know, he has to gain everything, or he has to get it from Lucifer. Yeah, so he says, therefore he says that whenever we find Faustus, whenever we find someone has abandoned, if you know the person, take the call, okay? And tell that Ma is having a class. So Faustus is very, you know, very arrogantly tells, Uncle, my classmate. Uncle, my classmate. Faustus says that he has, I'm really sorry, you know, today a lot of things is going on in my house. mother-in-law just had an eye operation, so a lot of things is going on in my house, so I'm a little kind of distracted. But let's see how if we can get the most out of this. I mean, this is what is happening in the COVID scenario also, where your home is getting into when the domestic space is getting into this the class. Damnation. So therefore Faustus's soul Faustus is so arrogant, and Faustus says that, okay, I have already given up my soul. Yeah. So Mephistopheles goes on to explain now about Lucifer's fall, and as I told you, Mephistopheles at no point of time is trying to tell Faustus that something is wrong here. Something is rather trying to tell Faustus that hell is a place of a very covetous place. So Mephistopheles never tells Faustus about that, right? And tells him whatever is true. Now, this is very important in Elizabethan tragedy, because Elizabethan tragedy over here in this respect moves away from Greek tragedy, where Greek tragedy, man was considered to, destiny was man. Here we have in Elizabethan tragedy, we have character is man. So, so for Greek tragedy, everything was preordained, everything was predestined. So if this was a Greek tragedy, then the explanation would be whether Faustus followed the path of good, or it was all predestined that Faustus would follow the path of bad, was predestined. But since Elizabethan tragedy is a Renaissance tragedy, which kind of depends a lot on human power, human ideas, or which depends on the sensuality of the human, you will find that every time Faustus is being, Faustus is being given that option of not being that option of moving out. So just as the good and the bad angels were also options, trying to tell him that he should move out, even here you will find Mephistopheles very objectively talking about hell. In no ways is he trying to impress Faustus about the power of hell. But what does Faustus do? Let's see. Please call later, my mother is taking classes. Okay, let's listen to it from a little earlier. Damned with Lucifer. Okay. So see how he is. Look at his expression. So Faustus is like, now Faustus is scorning those joys of heaven, right? And he actually is making fun of Mephistopheles, because Mephistopheles considers losing hell to be, losing heaven to be a matter of huge loss, right? And Faustus is telling Mephistopheles that, oh, I am of manly fortitude, and see, I can just give up heaven. I want you to notice these, these reactions, because they will be very helpful in the other half of the play, and it will also be very helpful in you to understand how Elizabethan tragedy works, the very workings of the tragic hero. Look at Faustus and his hubris now. Look at the huge pride that he has within himself. At the same time, also note the huge amount of, the immense amount of doubt that he has within himself. And what happens to it later on. This is the treaty. Mephistopheles is so surprised. Did you see Mephistopheles' reaction? See, that's his ambition. He is so ambitious. He's reminded of the cross. What about that? What does he do with that? Okay, so let's get back. Therefore, this begins a life where a lot of power, a speculation of power happens. And from here, you have already learned that Faustus decides to give up his soul to Satan for 24 years of a life of power and voluptuousness, and of having Mephistopheles at his service. Now, this is the main, the main crux of the play. This is supposed to be considered as a very serious treaty. But Elizabethan drama also had another interesting aspect, which was the comic scenes. Now, going against the classical form of drama, where it was thought that one would not be, there would not be any mixture of tragedy and comedy. What would happen, what is actually happening in Elizabethan drama mostly is this mixture that is taking place, where the tragedy and the comedy would actually coalesce, right? Where right after this very serious scene, we have a comic scene where we have this clown entering, and along with this clown, we also have Faustus's student coming in, who has in some way understood what is going on, right? And what does he do? He tells the clown that if the clown can, give up his soul to Wagner, or the clown can actually become an apprentice to Wagner for a shoulder of meat. So you see how that the very idea, how the loftiness of the previous scene where one was giving up one's soul to the devil has been deflated to this scene where Faustus's student Wagner, who in fact is a very poor fellow, is asking the clown to give him to become his apprentice, to work under him for what? For a shoulder of meat, right? So this particular scene, like if you're asked to talk about the comic scene in Dr. Faustus, this is one of the comic scenes in Dr. Faustus, which is a very, very important scene, because this is a scene which seems to turn the very, turn the very seriousness of that entire treaty or that entire deed that Faustus was trying to commit to in the previous scene. So and as such, what happens is there is a huge argument that goes on between Wagner and the clown, and ultimately, Wagner, clown asks for a better deal. So clown tells Wagner, "Well, no, I cannot become your, apprentice. I cannot become your assistant unless you give me a better deal." And you see, so this for the clown also, you will constantly find that the clown is also seems to be more rational and more logical than Faustus here. The clown seems to become a foil to Faustus here, because the clown appears to be more rational and more logical to Faustus. And the clown wants Wagner to offer him more riches. Only then does he become Faustus's apprentice. But as we move forward, we find that the tussle between Faustus continues. Faustus has already signed the contract. Faustus signs the contract. As you remember from the previous scene, Faustus asks Mephistopheles to visit him in his study during midnight. Mephistopheles comes in, they sign the contract, and as soon as they sign the contract, Faustus asks him a lot of questions, and out of that, one of the most important question is, where is the place that men call hell? So that is the first question Faustus asks Mephistopheles, which in fact, as I told you, was forbidden knowledge, was considered to be knowledge that was beyond men. But in opening up this, this question, what Marlowe is trying to do here is Marlowe is trying to question the rightness and the wrongness of knowledge. What is right knowledge? What is wrong knowledge? Who decides? Because this is a Renaissance man. These are Renaissance, this is what we Okay, are you all still here? All right.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
lost my connection.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll just begin, okay? I just lost my connection. Really sorry. Let me find out. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. One second. Okay, let's try it out from here only. একবার আসছে একবার যাচ্ছে Okay, so let's see. Fine. So therefore, in this scene, as I was telling you, Faustus gives his soul to the devil, and Faustus is also not very. Let us see. Let us look into this scene now. I hope it opens. So as I was telling you, you should look into these very important aspects of the scene to see how such knowledge, how knowledge is being talked about. How is Faustus looking into knowledge and the way forbidden knowledge comes into play. I think there's a problem with the internet. No, I think this will not open today. There's a problem with the internet. Let's do something instead of actually sitting and wasting time, because we have I have lost internet connection. I'm not getting the internet connection. Okay. Okay, we will look into this and then we will end the class today, okay? Because I find there is too much of disturbance today. I think I will continue with the class tomorrow. Okay, let's see this. This would be a very interesting scene where Faustus is conjuring the devil. See, Faustus is going to sign the deed now. Are you all with me? Are you all still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So Faustus is going to sign the deal, and Mephistopheles comes in and tells Faustus that he has to sign the deal, and Faustus tries to sign the deal using his blood. his blood freezes, right? He's not able to sign the deal. So there are various signs which continues to tell him that he is not supposed to move forward, but then at the same time, he decides to move forward. So this is the idea of the Elizabethan tragic hero that I was trying to bring forth, where he decides for himself, right? This is the good angel. So these are the morality elements. Is the debate inside. The debate inside. Look at his frustration. This is evil angel. All right, so there, this. Note that this, this debate is taking place within Faustus's psyche, which is why Faustus is not aware of the good and the bad angel or the personification, or I mean, he is not looking at the good and the bad angel, despite the fact that they have been personified here. He's not looking at them because this is a debate which is supposedly happening, of course, happening within his psyche. That he's once renouncing God and adopting the devil and vice versa. So Faustus ultimately gives into the evil angel. There's Mephistopheles. Okay, so a deed has to be written. This is a very interesting line. It is a companion. It is the wretched always needs a companion during misery. So this is something which also shows that hell is a place where there is a lot of misery. So this also is kind of an inversion of another very, another biblical, has a biblical reference, because as you know that during every holy mass, Christians are offered the blood and the body of Christ. And I mean, the blood and the body of Christ, it personifies, or it actually embodies morality. It embodies the fact that Christ was once on earth and he gave the life for the sin of man, and he is therefore our Lord. Here you can also see the same thing where uh, Lucifer wants the deed of giving up Faustus's soul to be written with his own blood, right? So that also, as if, he is now gaining an entry into the body and the soul of the human, making making this human space, making this, which is considered to be the temple of the body, is considered to be the temple. So he is actually making an entry into this space that was so divine, a space that was created by God, and a space that was so divine. So see, this is what I was talking to you about. His blood freezes. This is an aside. Faustus can't hear it. Homo fugae is a Latin phrase, which these are Latin words, which says homo is human and fugae is fly. So even after he has, so many different elements are coming together to rescue Faustus from the evil that he has committed, right? From this great amount of evil that he has committed. So it is trying to, I mean, this is what is being trying to emphasize, is that there has been a lot of ways by which Faustus was being asked to retrace his steps, or retrieve his deed, but then he went forward with it. At one point of time, you should notice that from now on, that at one point of time, this was all done by his will, right? It was all willfully done by him, but then almost at the end, he lost all, he lost all power, and every power of him towards him, whatever power was there, was being given off to Mephistopheles. Okay. From here, what happens? Yeah, I told you about this. From here, we will find Mephistopheles trying to, entertain Faustus. Yeah, delight his mind. So see, he tries to entertain Faustus, bring in the pleasures, right? And Faustus is distracted from all of that. So here comes in a sort of a mask. This is these people coming in. Of course, they come in as residents of hell, but this feature, this trope, this tool with which they come in is called mask. That is also a very interesting Elizabethan theatrical tool of, a very interesting tool of that era. The mask, where people actually come, they wear masks, and there is dancing, and a lot of, the play at times moves forward with it, but this is simple dancing and singing. Delight thy mind. Faustus is baffled, the pleasures that magic can bring. So he is checking about it with Mephistopheles. You should see that the deed is not yet handed over to Mephistopheles, right? And Mephistopheles tells him, oh, yes, whenever you want, you can raise up such spirits and have fun. Yeah, I will show you in this very scene how this gets toppled. Okay. Now Faustus is like, oh my God, fine, just leave me now. So he wants to give up the scroll to Mephistopheles. So Mephistopheles tells Faustus, I'll do everything you tell me to. But Faustus wants to read it, right? So we will skip that part and go to that part where Faustus hands it over to Mephistopheles, right? And then what happens? Then you will see a twist happening. So, John Fall. Even before he could doubt, Mephistopheles takes it. And now see the change. Oh, there. He takes up the seat. Faustus is baffled. What's wrong? Am I not the master? Then comes the first question. What is hell? Listen to the answer. Mephistopheles is very honest about hell. Notice the word tortured. Where we are is hell. That's also very important. If we can allude this to even Paradise Lost Book 1, you will find even Milton's Satan says we make a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell, and it's all in the mind. So there's no direct answer. Okay. So Mephistopheles is trying to make Faustus understand that, you know, Faustus is not able to understand the pain of hell, right? Mephistopheles tells Faustus that, look at me, I'm damned and I'm in hell forever. So am I not evidence enough for you? But Faustus is unable to understand. He's so drunk with power. He makes fun of it. So now Faustus wants to have a wife. The most beautiful woman in Germany. Okay. See, Mephistopheles does not want to give Faustus a wife. Can anyone tell me why? Mephistopheles tells Faustus, why a wife? Listen to it again. So Mephistopheles does not want Faustus to have a wife. Why? Can anyone tell me? Are you all still there?
Ma'am, because wife can
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Tell me.
Ma'am, because marrying someone is a holy thing.
Okay. Does everyone agree to that?
Yes, man, I agreed.
Yeah, in fact, marriage, according to, even in that era, was considered to be a holy thing. It was considered to be a holy institution established by God. So he would not allow Faustus to have, he cannot allow Faustus to have a wife. Therefore, the very thing that Faustus had, the very fact that Faustus had thought that, okay, I can get every pleasure in the world, it is not the case. And just see what Mephistopheles does to dissuade Faustus from having a wife. There comes the wife. It's a devil. Faustus is very angry. I mean, very. What is this? So Faustus is like, I don't want to have a wife. I don't want to have a wife. So what is very important here to note is that how the vision that Faustus had of getting power actually is continuously changing. Faustus had considered himself to become very powerful, but that is actually an illusion. So he gives him the book of magic, right? And that is what he wants Faustus to dwell in. Okay, so I think we will stop here today because a lot is going on in my house also. So we will stop here today, and tomorrow we will begin from here again. All right, and if you have any questions, we can answer that today.